What was a man to do? Philanthropy and power alone could not heal the sick, and all the physicians in the entire kingdom had been forced into service with the containment crews by royal decree. They were helping identify symptoms, teaching city watchmen how to check for telltale signs, and maintaining those horrifying suits. The Yellow Eyes was what the commoners called the containment crews now, and soon that would be the name given to all the Queen's constables, as the plague was the only crisis worth dealing with right now. Crime was running rampant, lewd public behaviour was no longer properly being dealt with. Waking up last morning, Lord Catton had seen a drunkard urinate on the street corner. Seeing such things might have been commonplace in the lower reaches of the city, but not from the window of his study. Merchants just a few blocks down from his home had petitioned him to do something about the thugs that had begun extorting protection money from them. They weren't coopers, tanners and farmers, but painters, jewelers and spice merchants. His city was falling apart. Something had to be done. Lord Catton stepped off the rail wagon, surrounded by his escort of city watchmen. He could almost see the frowns behind the yellow glow of their visors, hear their minds asking why a man of his standing would visit a district as wretched and plague-ridden as this one, especially at this hour. But when Lord Catton asked for something, he was not second-guessed. Some aristocrats he knew got up to all kinds of senseless folly, and everybody went out of their way to accommodate them. It was only right he should get the same treatment. The smell of sewage assaulted his nostrils. He hadn't experienced odours like this since the war. A wrinkling of the nose was the only reaction it would get. The watchman seemed impressed at how unfazed he was, and said nothing as he descended the cobbled steps down to the checkpoint. Over a dozen Yellow Eyes was standing watch around a set of waist-high metal barricades. Powerful spotlights illuminated the street, and anyone who looked even remotely sick and was trying to approach was warned once and then shot with extreme prejudice. The plan was to keep the sick away from the rail wagon stations, so that the plague might be prevented from spreading throughout the city. A futile effort, really. "Lord Catton, please, we've been instructed to allow you no passage," said a young watchman, stopping the noble's confident advance toward the checkpoint. It was clear he was uncomfortable denying Catton anything. "And who, might I inquire, has given you such insolent instructions?" Catton asked, taking care to seem as intimidating as possible. "The Chief Inspector, my lord. He's telegraphed all checkpoints, banning you from any and all areas that might contain infected." The old dog was quick. Catton had to give him that. The original plan had been for him not to learn of his nightly excursion until it was too late. "He says that as soon as the cure has been finished, he'll give you a tour of whichever district you like in person." "Pah! A cure! Ridiculous! Nobody's working on a cure, young man. The Queen has demanded an inoculation, a vaccine, because it'll be easier to achieve. Who do you think will receive that vaccine, huh?" Catton asked, looking intently at the watchman's visor. "Us aristocrats, of course, is the answer. And what will happen to the commoners?" The watchman needed a moment to respond. "They'll most likely perish, my lord," he finally answered, unsure if he was stepping out of line. "That is exactly correct. The commoners will suffer." Catton straightened himself to look even more exalted. "You will suffer, your families will suffer. Though we may like to let you believe it is the other way around, this city could not function without its commoners. That is why I must do what I will do. Forgive me, O my wise queen, for I believe you have erred." With the confidence of a powerful nobleman, Lord Catton walked through a gap in the barricades, only for the young watchman to step in his way. "My lord, please, I most humbly implore you. The Chief Inspector speaks with the authority of the Queen Majesty herself," he insisted. Catton looked around. The other Yellow Eyes were ready to jump at the occasion, though they were all very reluctant to disobey his orders directly. The Chief Inspector had a hand for placing loyal people in the right positions, that much was evident. He'd probably already anticipated Catton's plan. It was time to act. With a motion he'd used 1,000 times over a decade prior, he unsheathed his saber and stepped backwards across the barricade. His weapon pointed at the Yellow Eyes, he moved slowly. They might have been willing to step in his way, but attacking an aristocrat was a whole different matter, even if it was on royal orders. They were only commoners in bulky suits, after all. The commotion had attracted quite a bit of attention, especially as there was a man involved who wore clothing that was worth more than any of the poor saps in this district would ever earn in their lifetime. Catton spotted a gaunt man peering around a nearby corner. Even in the twilight he could see the black blemishes on his skin. He was infected, no question. "You come here, I demand it," he shouted. When the man only sank further into his corner, he added, "I am Lord Catton, and together we will cure this city. Come here and I will shower you with gold." That did the trick. Even on the brink of death, the greed of poor commoners always exceeded their sense of caution. "Come quickly!" The gaunt man picked up his pace, and Lord Catton used the saber to inflict a nice, deep, bleeding cut onto his own forearm. The Yellow Eyes shouted when they saw it, getting in motion to catch the vagrant before he could reach Lord Catton. They would not shoot. The risk of hitting the man they were supposed to protect from himself was too high. When the gaunt man arrived, he looked surprised when Catton cut his arm too, and pressed the two together by grabbing a hold of his elbow. He could almost feel the plague seeping into his veins through the commoner's contaminated blood. This was going to be a momentous occasion for centuries to come. The Yellow Eyes arrived, and to his surprise, their leader tackled Lord Catton to the ground. 3 others started beating the gaunt man to death. It was all the same to Catton. His goal had been accomplished. "It's too late," he exclaimed. "It's too late. Now I have the plague. An aristocrat, one of the most powerful men in the kingdom. They'll have to create a cure for everyone. There's no other choice now." Lying on the ground, the young watchman with the glowing yellow visor still laying on top of him, Lord Catton laughed. There was nothing they could do now. They had to heal everyone.